right, welcome back to the next session on meetings. Now we talked, or I mentioned earlier in the previous session that we're going to talk about how to run a meeting. And so even if you don't sit on the Joint Health and Safety Committee yet, well, you probably do because you're here taking this course. And if you don't know that you're on the committee, well, congratulations, you are, because it's the only reason why your employer would tell you to come to me and take it. But either way, whether you run a joint committee meeting or any other meeting in your world, strata meetings, coach meetings, anything like that, I'm hoping that you'll be able to get some information and some real good nuggets on how to effectively run a meeting. Now, I don't know what your meeting looks like, but I've been teaching the Joint Health and Safety Committee course now for, I don't know, probably 17 years. And typically, a Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting looks something like this. So, what should we talk about? Well, I don't know, this is broken. Well, this is broken. Well, this is broken. Well, this is still broken. Well, this sucks. This totally sucks. Well, you suck. Well, no, you suck. And at the end of it, you're like, great meeting, see you next month. And then we come back to the next month and we're like, so what do you want to talk about? Well, this is broken. This is broken. This is still broken. Well, this sucks. Well, this sucks. Well, you suck. No, you suck. And we're like, great meeting, see you next month. And we have this rotation of just what we call turning into this complaint session. And you know, we understand why, because up to this moment, or just a year ago when WCB put in the new regulation, before that, the Act literally said, have a committee. Thanks. Like, what do we do? How does that work? And so for, you know, all these years, we've just kind of sent you out and said, you know, good luck with the committee and your meetings. And so now WCB has made it just a little bit clearer for you, and they have tons of resources on how to sort of run this meeting. And so we want to turn them from these complaint sessions into real effective meetings. So this is my question I have for you. Now I'm going to give you a couple minutes. You'll see that you have a space to write in your book. And the question that I have is, what drives you crazy about meetings? Like, what don't you like? Well, what sucks? Okay, what drives you crazy about meetings? Now, you don't have to be specific about your current Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting, but any meeting that you have attended at any time in your life throughout the years, whether with the company that you're at now or previous companies, but anything that you can think of that just drives you crazy. Why is it that you don't like meetings? So I'm going to give you a couple minutes, like literally 2 minutes, and I just want you to write in your book just some of those things that drive you crazy. And then I'm going to come on back in a couple minutes. All right, go for it. You need to commit. Now you do it, write it down. I'm going to wait right here. And if you need more time, you can always put me on pause. All right, I'll see you in a couple minutes. Welcome back. Now, did you do your exercise? Come on, if you haven't done it, put me on pause and write down some of that information that drives you crazy, all right? So go ahead and make sure that you do that. But I've got a list, because I can't be there with you in person. I have a list of things that I have found over the years that most students have said that they don't like about meetings. And I'm hoping that most of these will actually be on your list, or you'll certainly be able to relate to them. What always interests me is when in class and I run this exercise, people have like 20 items on your list, and those 20, 30 items are the same items that have been on every class list that I've had for 17 years. So I always wonder, very curious, and if we hate it, why is it that we're still doing it? Well, maybe we're doing it because we really haven't been taught on how to prevent some of this stuff from happening. So the very first one that I have, or that most students will say, is that there's no agenda. It drives people crazy. Every class I've ever had, the top one or the top two one is always no agenda, or that they're not organized. You have to have an agenda. Detail out what it is that you're going to talk about. Humans love structure. Now you may say to me, no, Tanya, I'm all about spontaneity. I love being spontaneous. Maybe in your personal life, but certainly not at work. At work, we want to know exactly what we're doing, what is expected of us, and how long we have to get it done. And so people function better when they sort of have an expectation of what is to come. And so you have to have an agenda. Now I would tell you, you want to have that agenda come out about 3 to 5 days before your meeting. You know, a lot of companies either don't have an agenda, or if they do, sometimes it's printed the morning of. And then when you arrive into your meeting the morning of, you're looking at it and your name's on a couple of things and you're like, I didn't know. And so you want to have that out a few days before, so 3 to 5 days beforehand. And I promise people will be very grateful that you have that simple thing such as an agenda. And that having an agenda will help you with the going off topic, right? How many of you don't like it when you go off topic? Yeah, me neither. It actually drives me crazy going off topic. But, you know, how do we sort of stop that from happening? You know, a lot of times we'll sit there as a chair or a committee member and we're thinking, man, I wish somebody would cut them off. Well, if you're the chair, that's you. And you need to rise up and you need to actually interrupt them. And I know most of you are like, well, but Tanya, I'm like Canadian, and I don't want to interrupt because it's like that's rude. You know, everybody has the right to be heard. Yeah, I get all of that, and that's great. But sometimes you just need to cut somebody off. Now, there is a way to cut somebody off and a way not to cut somebody off. Do you agree? Yeah, like for example, if I am the chair and I shout across the room, Ryan, shut up. That would be incorrect. Okay, that's not what we're talking about when we want to cut somebody off. But what if I said something along the lines of, hey Ryan, sorry to interrupt. I have to apologize because I'm Canadian. Sorry to interrupt. I hear what you're saying. I'm just going to take it and write it at the bottom of the agenda, and we're going to come back to it if we have more time. And so what we were talking about is da-da-da-da-da. And then get people back on course. Now, that's a way better skill to interrupt somebody. Now, you need to hear sort of what I said there. So let me give you a couple examples so you can really see the difference. So I can say things like, hey Ryan, sorry to interrupt, we're off topic. All right everybody, so this is what we're talking about, so let's get back on track. Or, hey Ryan, sorry to interrupt, I hear what you're saying, actually awesome. I'm going to write it at the bottom of the agenda and we're going to come back to it if we have more time. Which one would you prefer? Why is that extra thing of writing it down make a big difference? Well, most people want to be heard. They want to feel valued. And so if I were just to interrupt, let's say Ryan, and say, hey, sorry to interrupt, we're off topic, and come back, that worker will most likely do this. Nobody ever listens to me. But if I actually acknowledge what they're saying and literally write it down so that they feel valued, and it may be very valuable what they're saying, and add it onto the agenda, it makes a world of difference when you're interrupting somebody to get everybody back on track. You really have to be a strong chair, and don't be shy to kind of step out and really be bold, be brave when you're leading a meeting. It takes special skills to do that, and hopefully some of those skills you learned today. And that's why some people love sharing the chair, and they have like 12 people on the committee, one person does it a month. Well, number one, everybody gets to experience it and feel it. And number two, it's great skills to learn, great skills to help you in the future. So another thing that's always on the list is the loudest person takes over. Right, so the loudest person takes over the meeting, and again, nobody else is participating, and people get annoyed and frustrated. Well, we've already talked about how to cut somebody off, and you can certainly do that with this person. But one of the things that I do before any meeting is I kind of set what I would call a preamble, or some of you may know it as sort of housekeeping rules. And so every meeting, I'll generally start with, a vision statement or a mandate for the Joint Health and Safety Committee. If you don't have one, I would encourage you to write one for your committee. But I will read it, and it'll be something along the lines that, hey guys, we're here today to really talk about safety. Okay, we're here with management and workers working in consultation or collaboration with each other. It's not us versus them. And we're not here to fight against people and somebody did something wrong. We're here to really discuss the hazard and be concerned with the hazard. And then I'll go on and I'll say things. So I'm going to ask everybody some questions and have everybody participate. We only have a certain amount of time, so everybody has to be able to have a conversation. So if I cut you off, it's not to be rude. It's because I want to ensure that everybody is participating. Well, now when you have the loudest person that takes over, you can go ahead and interrupt them because you've already told them that you in fact will interrupt them. And sometimes we give this poor person, whoever it is, the loudest person, because they're upset or what you would consider maybe angry or annoying, but really they're just passionate about what they believe. And sometimes we just need to acknowledge their passion about what they believe and then move on to the next person. So it's a great way to help control your meeting is to set up that preamble or housekeeping rules beforehand. All right, so that's another one. Okay, here's a good one. This always comes up on all of my lists, latecomers, right? Latecomers. People hate it when people show up late. Well, time, and I think I've mentioned this before, time is the most precious commodity that we have. We exchange our life for time. And so when we show up on time and ready to go, and then other people don't, and you sit and you wait 4, 5, 6 minutes, and then the meeting gets started, you could have done stuff with that time. And so it's very frustrating. And, if you're brand new, let's say, you're watching at home or watching at work, wherever you are, you're brand spanking new to the committee. You've actually never attended a meeting so far. So you tell me, how early would you show up? So let's say your meeting was scheduled from 9 a.m. till 10 a.m. What time would you show up for the meeting? It's your first meeting ever, right? You're not too sure what to expect. You're not, I don't know what to do. I need to show up a little bit earlier. At what time would you show up? Most people will show up about 15 minutes early. So about 8:45 you'd show up. But what would happen is when you show up is that you sort of, walk in, and I know some of you have experienced this, but you'll walk into the meeting, right? So you sort of, you like walk in and like, there's nobody here. And so you turn around and you go like to the bathroom or you go do something else because you're like, oh, there's nobody here yet. And then you maybe come back about, 5 or 6 minutes too, and you walk in. There's still nobody here. And then you grab a chair and you sit down and you're like, pull out your phone. You're like, am I in the right place? You check your meeting schedule. And then right at 9, a bunch of people start walking in. Well, what did you just learn? You just learned that you don't have to be early. And so the next meeting, I'm going to guess you're going to show up at 9. But the thing is, people do show up at 9, but there's always that 1 or 2 people, right? That we just have to wait for. We just have to wait for. And we show up 4 or 5, 6 minutes, or we start 4 or 5, 6 minutes later. So you go to your second meeting, and you arrive this time right at 9, because you just don't want to feel uncomfortable, and so you want to arrive with everybody. So you arrive with everybody at 9, and we start 4, 5, 6 minutes later. What did you just learn? How important is it to be on time? You do it maybe one more month, and you start again 4, 5, 6 minutes later. Well, you have just learned that you don't have to be on time. And so I promise, one day you're going to be sitting at your computer and you're going to be typing some information. You're going to be looking at your clock going, I have to go to the Joint Health and Safety Committee, but I have to get this email done. But that's okay, because we never start on time anyway. So you go ahead and do your emails, and you go running into your Joint Health and Safety Committee, and you show up and you're like, haha, I'm not the last person, right on, and you grab your seat and you still have to wait a couple more minutes. I promise that sooner or later, because time is valuable to you, that you will learn when it is that you can actually walk in to your meeting, sit down, and the meeting starts. How much work can you get done in 6 minutes? I don't know about you, but most people have a life of going 400 different directions, 100 miles an hour. And so I can get a lot of work done in 6 minutes. Time is precious and valuable. So you have to start your meeting on time. Okay, you have to start it on time. People will appreciate that. And then people who are late, they're going to walk in. Have you ever walked into a meeting when you're late? I would love to show you, see if I can do that. So just stay with me for a second. But this is generally, when I'm teaching a course, what it looks like when people arrive late. Hang on. Oh, sorry, I'm late. Where are we? Sorry, I just need to grab this chair here. What were we talking about? Wait, you look like an idiot, right? It's very distracting. And so people come in, they're tripping over their chairs, they're grabbing their books, and they're trying to figure out where we are located, and it's very interrupting. Well, if you've already started the class, how does that person feel when everybody is staring at them? Uncomfortable? Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah, I think it's okay. It's time. I asked you to be here at a certain time, and you're late. And most people who feel uncomfortable, they don't like that feeling. So the next time, they're going to be on time. Now, I'm not talking about, please hear my heart, I'm not talking about the people I've been in there's been an accident, I can't get here, something emergencies happen. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the people who are just like, no, I'll just show up late, because they don't make Joint Health and Safety Committee a priority. So start on time always when you're doing your Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting, okay? Always start on time. And show up. Be a man or woman of your word and show up when you're supposed to show up. The next one that I usually get on the list is boring. They don't like meetings that are boring. Well, a lot of people will say, well, Tanya, I'm not an extrovert. I don't have like Energizer Energizer bunny, that's what it is, energy like you have. I promise that I don't wake up every morning with this kind of energy. And if any of you have seen me teach live, you'll understand that statement. Sometimes I just really have to concentrate about, how I speak and how I stand. And so some of the most powerful people in the world and leaders are introverts. So if you are sort of the quiet introvert, do not think that you can't lead a meeting, because that is untrue. You can very much lead a very powerful meeting. Now, a lot of it is just concentrating on getting people involved and using your voice. I've gone to meetings that people have got the agenda and they read it off. So today we're going to talk about PPE, personal protective equipment. So does anybody know what PPE that we need to be wearing for this? Is anybody? Anyone? Bueller? I hope some of you got that joke. If you didn't get that joke, you need to be older. But they just have this voice that is just straight across the board. And you just have to be more flexible with your voice. Sometimes when you speak, you can speak louder and clearer. Sometimes you can talk much faster and get really excited about something. And other times, you can slow down your speech to make a point. Just changing your voice up and down makes a world of difference. Understanding things such as when you end on a high note, it very much changes the energy in the room than if you end on a low note. Can you feel it? Makes a difference. You don't have to be like psycho and, come on guys, today's Joint Health and Safety Committee, it's gonna be great, you're gonna love it. You don't need to be like that. Not to make a meeting exciting and engaging. asking questions makes a huge difference of getting people engaged and so that they're not bored. And I know that you can do it. It's totally in you to do it. So make sure that your meeting is not boring. Another one that's always on the list, and people kind of joke about it, but I think it's got some value. It says, we don't like it when there's no food. We need to have some food at the meeting. Well, I agree with that, because we really learn better and we really engage better when we use all of our senses, all 5 of our senses, and one of those senses is taste. And so if you can feed people, it does make a difference in your meetings. Now, this is what I'm going to question, or not question you on, but make you think about for just a second. When we usually have a meeting, what is it that is supplied? Who knows? Coffee and donuts, right? Coffee and donuts. And what does coffee have in it? That's right, caffeine. And what does caffeine or coffee do about a half hour later after you've had it? You crash. That's right. But that's okay, because we got donuts for you. So you can go ahead and have a donut. Now, what's in donuts? Sugar, wheat, and dairy. My favorite 3 things of all time. But what do all of those do? Well, sugar is quick, high, and then crash down low. Wheat makes you tired. Dairy makes you tired. And so we wonder sometimes, we feed people coffee and donuts into our meeting, and then about 20 minutes in, we're wondering why people aren't engaged. Well, maybe we've sabotaged our meeting just by the food that we're supplying. So I'd encourage you not to supply some of those things. Now, listen to me. You always have to bring coffee. If you don't bring coffee to your meetings, you will be killed, just so you know. But we can certainly do something with the donuts. Maybe consider bringing granola bars or some fruit. When I'm teaching and running meetings, I always expect that there will be water and bottled water or water available to people, because water hydrates you and it helps bring oxygen into your brain so that you can stay more alert and more engaged. So water, granola, and fruit will make a world of difference if you can bring that to your meetings. And coffee. Don't forget your coffee. All right, so another one besides boring, another one that's on the list is going overtime. Going overtime, or your meeting is too long. Well, people don't like it when a meeting is too long. Do you agree? Yeah, it drives me crazy as well. So now I know this is not an in-person class, but I teach lots of in-person classes, and most of the classes will generally go, let's say, from 8 till 4. And so I will expect that the course will go to 8 to 4 and that you will leave at 4. But you see, I know that when my students come in, they know that it's to 4. But you, and I know because you've been to a course as well, you always have a predetermined time when you think that the course should be ended. Not when it's going to be ended, but when you think it should be ended. And it's not at 4 o'clock, I promise. Most students knock off almost a half hour of time and hope that we'll get out at 3:30 or at least 3:45. And so you have this predetermined, okay, I know it's to 4, but we're going to get out at 3:30. Well, could you imagine if you were in a course and we went 8 till 4 and it's now 4 o'clock? Well, you are already starting to get a little annoyed. Why? The course is from 8 till 4, but you see, you've had this predetermined thought in your mind. And so when I run these courses from 8 to 4, usually at about 3:30 or so, I will always have somebody in the room that'll do this. Now, if you don't have a watch, because it's not that cool, they'll take a look at their phone, right? So they'll grab their phone and they'll pick it up and hold it like this, sort of towards me. They won't like just look down at their table and just press the button just to see what time it is. They do stuff like this. Hey, Tanya, I'm looking at the time. Do you see what time it is? Because students want to know, do you know what time it is? You know, I've actually had students, I don't know, 3:45 or 10 to 4, where they like fold their book, stack their book, grab their pen, put it beside them, grab their coffee mug, make it nice and straight, and then they look at me. Right? Like, I'm ready to go. It's not even 4 o'clock yet. The course goes from 8 till 4. And you need to understand that as somebody who's leading a meeting, that people will actually start to check out before you told them that the meeting is to end. So for example, we've said the meeting goes from 9 till 10. Well, about 9:45, people will start to check out, maybe about 10 to 10. And so it's really important as a chair, if you're a chair, or tell your chair, that they need to address the group. So I'll always stop the meeting, no matter who's speaking, at about 10 minutes before it's over. And I'll say stuff like this: hey guys, stay with me. I only need you for, 6 more minutes or 4 more minutes, or we're almost there. Because it gets people re-engaged into the conversation. Because most people just want to know that you know what time it is. Right? I've had students when, like at 3:45, or actually, can you remember this scenario? Because I know that you've had this experience. You've had an instructor like at 5 to 4, and they start to tell a story. And then you turn to your coworker. She's telling a story. Does she know what time it is? Right? You've done it. You know you have. And people just want to know that you know what time it is. So at 10 minutes before, just stop and say, hey guys, I need you for whatever minutes that you need them for. It makes a world difference. Now, people don't check out. Please, again, hear my heart. People don't check out because you're boring or because they're not engaged. We check out because we're going in 400 different directions, 400 miles per hour. And so at about 10:02, they know the meeting's coming to an end. They'll do stuff like this. Okay, so when I leave here, I need to stop by so-and-so's office. I need to check my emails, and I need to go that route that way because that's more efficient, and I need to grab this, and oh man, I need to grab this on my way home. Like, you're already pre-thinking what's next because we're moving so fast. And so really the interruption of, hey guys, stay with me, really just snaps them back and like, okay, she knows what time it is, and 6 more minutes. I can commit to 6 more minutes. And most people will stay alert. Now, if your meeting goes from 9 till 10, you need to finish at 10 o'clock. You can't go overtime, right? You can't. Because people are already annoyed at the time. Can you imagine if you went like 1 minute over? Holy! There was this class like years ago, and I was like, it was 8 till 4, and I went like 1 minute over, and you could see people were like this. And so all of the relationship that I built with them, they're like starting to dislike me. And about 5 after 4, they literally hated my guts. And so you need to end on time. Now, in saying that, if you're talking about a really great subject, you still need to stop your meeting. Say something like this: hey guys, it's 10 o'clock. We promised we'd have you out by 10 o'clock. But this is a really great topic. Can everybody commit to like 4 more minutes? Just 4 more minutes. Most people will say yes because they know what the expectation is. But you need to address it during your meeting. All right? So start on time, end on time when you're running your meeting. All right. So let's talk about a few more that are on maybe your list or on the list that I get over the years. One is that there's no conclusion for the discussion or no action items that come out of the discussion. So we talk, and then 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 next meeting, we talk about it again. And then the next meeting, we get to talk about it again, right? And I know that you've experienced some of those meetings. As a chair or as a group of people, we need to know that you need to get to an action item. Now, a lot of people will have an admin support person come into the meeting, and they will just somehow expect that this person who knows nothing about safety is typing in the action items, and they're figuring it out. I can tell you of the groups of people that I've assisted or helped, most of the admin people, when I've asked them, they're like, I have no idea, I'm just winging it. And so it's really important that a chair stops and says to everybody, all right, so the action item is blank. Turn to your admin person. Did you get that? Don't leave this person out and just assume that they know what the action item is. You have to be specific and clear. It's one of the things that drives on everybody's list. It's on my list for 17 years. They don't like it when we don't get to that action item. So we need to make sure that the action item is clear and that the person that's jotting it down or typing it in, that the action item is clear. And then when you do these action items, another complaint is that the action items don't get done. Right? So we write down an action item in the next meeting. So did we do this action item? No. Well, why not? Well, there's 3 reasons why action items don't get completed. Number 1 is there's not a name or a date assigned to it. So if there is an action item, you need to be able to say, all right, who's going to do this? And you're going to put somebody's name beside it. John Smith, okay, is going to go ahead and do this. Okay, perfect. And then you want to ask John, when can he do, or when can he complete the action item? A lot of times on our meeting minutes, we'll do stuff like this: by next meeting date, by next meeting date, by next meeting date. Why? Don't do that. You need to take that off of your meeting minutes. You need to put in an actual date. So when you go around the room, you're like, hey, John, when do you think I can get it done by? Well, Tanya, I could probably do that in 2 days. Perfect. Put the 2 days, the date, beside the action item. Ryan, when do you think that you can get this done by? Oh man, maybe 2 weeks? Perfect. Write the 2-week date. You go to the next person. Hey, Jane Smith, what it is that when can you get this done? Well, Tanya, there's just no way. Maybe about 6 weeks. Done. Put the 6-week date. You notice that action items will become way more successful when people actually commit to the date, as opposed to you saying, by next meeting date, by next meeting date. Because they come in and you say, did you get it done? Well, no, I was too busy. The expectation that you gave me was too hard. No, get them to actually commit to when they can get it done. You will find that they'll get completed way more. So person's name, the date, and make sure that they pick the date of when they think they can get it completed by. Another reason why action items don't get done is because, well, this is typically what I see is, let me ask you this. When you get your meeting minutes from your meeting, how does it come to you? Does it come by email, or do you get a printed copy? Well, let's say it comes by email, because that's sort of popular, right? And so it comes by email, it pops up in front of your computer, aha, Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting minutes, and what do you do with them? No, you don't print them out. I know you're thinking that that's what you should do, but that's not what you really do. What do? Delete, or you go file, or you'll flag it until later, and you move it out of the way. And so then when somebody comes up to you, like that morning, or a month later, and they come up to you that morning like, hey, Ryan, we'll see you at the meeting. And you're like, what meeting? And then you're like, oh man, shoot, it's the Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting. You pull up those meeting minutes and your name is on it like 3 times. And then you arrive to your meeting, and what does that person say? So Ryan, did you get this done? No, I was too busy. Is that the truth? No, it's not the truth. The truth is that you didn't make it important. Right? If you have a printed copy, right? A lot of people we print a copy and we give it to every single person. Excellent. Well, I don't know if you've seen your desk recently, but my desk, I received that Joint Health and Safety Committee piece of paper and ends up somewhere in the epitome of the black hole of my desk. And then when somebody comes by that next morning and says, hey, we'll see you at the meeting, I'm like, what meeting? And I'm ripping apart my desk, papers are flying, I pull out my meeting minutes, and I'm like, oh, shoot, my name's on 3 things. I go to the meeting, they say, Tanya, did you get these done? And I'm like, no, I was too busy. No, that's not the truth. The truth is that I didn't make it important. So if your name is on something, you need to commit to it. Commit to it. Be a man or woman of your word. Now I'll tell you a trick that I did. Years ago I started doing this. But remember I told you earlier you want to set an agenda out 3 to 5 days beforehand? Well, I do that with all of the action items right on the agenda. Now, this is the trick that I do, is I attach the agenda to the email saying, hey guys, see attached, agenda for next meeting, and I write down the date, so 3 or 5 days later. And then please see below for your action items. So what I do is I take out the action items from the previous meeting minutes and I insert them into the body of the email. Because most people actually don't open attachments. So I want them just to scroll down quickly in the body of the email and see their name beside something. Then they're given 3 to 5 days beforehand, which is enough time for them to go, oh, I need to reorganize my week and make sure I do this. And it's not too long with oh, that's next week, I won't worry about it. So get that agenda out 3 to 5 days beforehand. Put the action items in the body of the email as well as on the agenda, and you will find that the action items get completed a lot faster. I actually did some stats on it and realized that I had 79% increase of action items being done just by getting people to commit to the date and when I send out the reminder email in the body of the email. The last reason why action items don't get complete, and most of you are familiar with this one, is because the employer doesn't respond, or the employer takes their time, or the employer says things like, it's not in the budget. So, how can we prevent that from happening? Well, let me ask you this question. How many days, by law, does the employer have to respond to your recommendations? Do you know? Well, grab your phones. Okay, grab your phones. Grab your phone. Good, grab it. And now you want to go ahead and open it up to the Act. So if you haven't touched your phone since the last time, you should be pretty much at the exact same spot that you need to be. If you haven't, again, you can touch the Browse button at the top, click on the Act and Regulation, and then the second one down is the Workers' Compensation Act. So you go ahead and click on that. And what division are we going to for Joint Health and Safety Committee? Do you remember? Division 4, you got it. So you're going to scroll down and you're going to go ahead onto Division 4. Now some of you may already be there, so that's great if you're already there. And I want you to scroll down and find where it talks about a employer must respond to your recommendations. So keep going until you actually find it. I'll give you a second. Keep scrolling. You get it. I'll give you a hint. 133. Good, go to 133. Now, if you take a look at 133, it says the employer must respond to committee recommendations. Well, how many days? Write it in your book. There's a spot for you right there to write it in your book. 21 days, that's right. You have 21 days to respond. So why are things on your meeting minutes for months and months and months? 21 days to respond. Now, are they allowed to say no? Well, if you read on, actually inside here, it's number 2 there. It says that they have 21 days indicating if they accept it. And if you take a look at B, it says, or giving the employer a reason for not accepting the recommendation. So that means they can say no, but they have to give you what? A reason. Now, not in the budget. Is that a reason? I mean, it's a reason. It's certainly not a very good one, but it is unacceptable. It's not in the budget. What does that mean? And sometimes I wonder, maybe as a Joint Health and Safety Committee, that we're not communicating that well with our employer. For example, the employer says it's not in the budget, and you leave and you come back to the committee and you're like, oh, it's not in the budget. They said no, and then it stays on your meeting minutes. As a committee member, maybe I should do stuff like this when the employer says, hey, it's not in the budget. Well, what do you mean it's not in the budget? Do you mean it's not in the budget this year? And it is next year, and I just have to come up with a temporary solution? Or are you saying that the $10,000 we're asking for is too much and we have a budget of $1,500? Like, what does that mean? Because we need information as the Joint Health and Safety Committee so that I can come back to you as a committee and I can say, okay, the answer is no, it's not in the budget, but we can put in the budget next year. So guys, we have to come up with a temporary solution. And then you work collaboratively with each other to come up with a temporary solution. Or guys, we don't have $10,000, we have $1,500. Let's see, what can we do with that? And that is the role of the committee, is to be able to take that information and adjust and make some more recommendations. All right, so you want to make good recommendations to the employer. I also wonder, sometimes when we approach our employer and ask for things, if we really don't do it well. Like some of the things that I see in real life, and you may have experienced this too, is that a joint committee member will go up to the employer and say, somewhere in regulation it says you need to do this. Somewhere in regulation, what does that mean? That's not how you become a Joint Health and Safety Committee of influence, right? Or people will say things like, if you don't do it, it's going to be very expensive. What does that mean? That, like, get out of my office. Like, those are the types of words that an employer really just, that doesn't help them in any way, shape, or form. My favorite one is, if you don't do this, you're going to hurt somebody. Somebody's going to get hurt. How are you going to feel about that? What are you doing? These are not ways that we want to approach our employer. I remember when I was, okay, you bear with me. I remember I was 21, 22 years old. I was brand spanking new. I sort of stopped being doing ambulance stuff, and I got into construction. And I joined the Joint Health and Safety Committee because I was young and people voluntold me. And I'm like, yeah, I would love to save the world. I'm totally cool to do that. And so I joined the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and we needed some training. And so the committee did some research, and we wanted this one course. It was about $1,200. And they said, Tanya, go and ask the employer. And, I mean, I'm 20. I'm like, okay, no problem. I would love to go ask. And so me and my cuteness, my little bubbliness, I'm like, go into my site superintendent's office. And I'm all cute and adorable and just lovely, of course. And I go into his office and I say, excuse me, sir, I have a question. And he turned to me and looked at me and said, what do you want? Well, I was 21, 22 years old. I was like, I'm training, it just freaked me right out. I mean, I was 21, he hated my guts. When you're a girl and you're 21 and somebody treats you like that, you think they hate your guts. That's what happens when you're 20. And so I was like freaked out. I like left with my tail between my legs and I left his office. I went home, I'm like in tears. My supervisor hates me and all those things that come with that. And then my family sat down with me and said, well, Tanya, consider that this person is very busy and they have a lot going on. So maybe it's not you. Maybe it's on how you approach the information. Maybe you need to say it in a way that they can understand it. And so the next time I went in prepared. And so this time I had 3 quotes for training, I had some quotes for equipment, and I had with me my little secret weapon. Some of you may know this because you may already have it as your secret weapon, the WorkSafe BC magazine. So I came prepared. I went to his office. I don't know, it was like 4 or 5 months later, so I was scared to death of him. But I went back in there because I was certain that I was going to make this happen. And so I went in there. I said, "Excuse me, sir. Can I have 2 minutes of your time?" And he turned to me and said, "What do you want?" And I said, "Well, I wanted to show you this WorkSafe magazine." Now, in the center of the magazine, if you're not familiar, has all the companies that have been fined over the last month or so. And so I put it in front of him and I said, I just wanted to show you that our competitor had been fined $43,000. And you should have seen this little crooked smile came across his mouth. I'm like, I know, right? And I said, but I wanted you to know that we're doing the same thing. And so what we've done is we put together for you some options. And I gave him this equipment option. And I said, here's 3 quotes. We can buy this piece of equipment, $45,000, $32,000, or $29,000. Or we can do training. Here's 3 quotes on training. One was like $2,100, $1,500, and $1,200. And I looked at him and I said, pick one. And you can see him as he processed, all right, $43,000 fine, $30,000 for a piece of equipment, or $1,200 for training. He pointed at the training. I'm like, thank you. I grabbed up all my paperwork and I left. And I was in his office for, 18 seconds. And I got the training that I had previously asked for 4 months before, where he kicked me out of his office. So sometimes I wonder, is it how we're asking the employer for information of why sometimes we're not getting the things that we need or we want? I mean, maybe you are, and that's great. But I just encourage you to kind of think about that process. So those are some of the main reasons why action items actually don't get completed. And one more thing, I'm just going to tell you a little bit based on these action items, is sometimes we have things on our meeting minutes that don't belong. They're not Joint Health and Safety Committee issues. For example, this is my favorite one, PPE, personal protective equipment. And every single meeting minutes I go to, I'll pull it up on the meeting minutes, it says, workers not wearing their safety glasses. That is not a Joint Health and Safety Committee issue. That is a supervisor issue. That should not be on your Joint Health and Safety Committee minutes. If a worker is not wearing their safety glasses, it goes to the supervisor and the supervisor should discipline them. Period. End of story. This is not a joint committee issue. However, in saying that, if the supervisor disciplines the workers and then the workers say to them, well, these glasses are horrible or we don't like them for whatever reason, the supervisor then could come to the Joint Health and Safety Committee and say, hey guys, could you do some research on different types of safety glasses so that we can offer them to the workers? Yes, we can. That is a Joint Health and Safety Committee issue. So take a look at your meeting minutes and find out if maybe there's some stuff on there that's just on there. Generally, those are the things that'll always say, action item ongoing, action item ongoing. If it says ongoing, it probably maybe either shouldn't be there, or there may be something that we need to, other things that we need to consider, especially if it's on there for a year. Maybe you're waiting for the next budget season to come, and that's why it's on there for a year. That's totally acceptable if you want to. If you're a really good chair, sometimes I'll take those off of the meeting minutes and then I'll put them back on the meeting minutes in a year's time, as opposed to having them sit on your meeting minutes for months and months in. So there's lots of things that you can do to ensure that action items get completed. And the last one that I'm going to talk about, which I think is one of the most important ones, that's always on the list, and it might be on your list as well, is lack of participation. You arrive and nobody participates in the meeting. Now, how many of you have a round table? So, you know, the round table at the end of the meeting where you sort of go around the room and you say, do you have anything? Do you have anything? Do you have anything? If you have that, that's extraordinary. Please keep doing that. That round table is a powerful tool, especially for the Joint Health and Safety Committee. But unfortunately, sometimes we're not using that round table effectively. And the reason for it originally was to get people to participate, because we had a lack of participation. But I don't know, does your round table, look something like this? Do you have anything? No. 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 Right? Sound familiar to you? Of course it is. It's very common. And so again, the meeting that I described to you earlier, right? We show up and we're like, this is broken, this is broken, this is still broken, this is still broken, this sucks, well, you suck, and then you do your round table and you got anything? No. Do you got anything? No. Do you got anything? No. Do you got anything? No. And we're like, great meeting, right? Let's use that round table for what it's intended to be. So if I'm chairing a meeting, just so you know, I don't accept no. I don't allow that in my Joint Health and Safety Committee meetings, ever. You actually have to come with something. Now here's my rules. My rule is that it doesn't have to be something bad. It doesn't have to be something bad. It can actually be something good. Like, let me ask you this question. How do you know that you're successful as a committee? Because people don't get hurt? Is that because of you, or just because of luck? Why is your committee, how do you know that your committee is successful? I mean, when was the last time somebody came up to you and said, hey Tanya, I just want to say thanks for sitting on the Joint Health and Safety Committee. Like, you volunteer, and I just appreciate that you do that. When was the last time you heard somebody say that? Or does this sound more familiar? Tanya, this is still broken. What's going on? How come this isn't fixed yet? Does that sound more familiar to you? Of course it does. We know that safety is a thankless job, and we know that that people just generally will complain about stuff. They don't necessarily say thank you. So how do you know that you're successful? Round table. Come with something good. Now, I expect that because you're here, you're representing a different department within your company. So I will expect that you would go to that department and say, hey guys, we have a Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting today. Is there anything you'd like me to bring up? If they say no, I want you to ask them some questions. Just random questions like, so let me ask you this. If you were injured today, who's the first aid attendant on site? And they'll probably tell you. Go up to an office person and they have like hand sanitizer on their desk and say, so tell me, where is the SDS for that? And they might look at you and go, the what? Or they might be able to tell you, oh, it's located in our lunchroom. Ask some questions. So remember that round table is extraordinary if you use it correctly. So I want you to picture or imagine this. You have an agenda for your meeting. Everybody shows up on time. People go off topic, but the chair brings them back into place. We have discussions about something. People might get passionate, and that's okay. We cut people off when we need to, get everybody to sort of give their information in. We get to clear action items. We tell the admin person the action items. And then at the end, we do a round table that looks something like this. So, do you have anything? Yeah, Tanya, you told me to go and talk to my staff, and I did. And I asked them about the SDS, and everybody knew where the book was located. That's awesome. Thank you. Do you have anything? The next person says, yeah, Tanya, I talked to my staff like you asked me to, and everybody knew who the first aid attendant was on site. Oh, that's fantastic. Do you have anything? Yeah, Tanya, you know those posters that we put up about heat stress because summer was coming? Well, I want to know if people were actually reading them. So I asked a couple questions about them and people actually answered, and so they're reading the posters. That's awesome. Do you have anything? Yeah, Tanya, you know that video that we put in the lunchroom that rotating about those little kids that are lifting boxes? I'm like, yeah. Well, I decided to ask a couple people about the video if they're actually watching it. And they said they were. I asked them some questions and all of them were able to answer. That's excellent. Do you have anything? Yeah, Tanya, you know that new safe job procedure that we wrote? Well, I went to the worker that it affected and I asked him what he thought about that new safe job procedure. And he loved it. He really appreciated that we do that. That's awesome. Do you have anything? Yeah, Tanya, you know that great thing we're doing? Come on. That's how you end a meeting. Would you rather go to that meeting? Or would you rather go to the meeting that says, this sucks, you suck, everything sucks. Do you have anything? No. 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 Right? Why aren't we getting people into these meetings? Because they're a waste of time. They don't feel like they have purpose. You don't know if you're successful. That round table will give you the opportunity to state inside your meeting what you're successful at. And it's so important that we tell people the hard work that they're putting into it, that they're actually being successful. And what's really great about that is you record all of those successes inside your safety meeting minutes that need to be posted for 3 months. Last 3 months need to be posted. You put them in there and people are reading these positive things. And on top of that, the new legislation says that you need to fill out an evaluation form annually. Now this is brand spanking new legislation for you. Hopefully you've already heard about it within your joint committee, but if you haven't, you need to do this evaluation form. Now, the evaluation form is in your books. So you can take a look at your books and go to it and turn to it right now. And I'm just going to show you a little bit about what's in that inside that book. But what the evaluation form ideally is asking you is if you're successful as a committee. Well, up to this point, there was no way to measure it. And so now with the evaluation form, we can measure if we're successful. And because we've used the round table and we've now got positive things that we're successful for in our meeting minutes, when we do our evaluation form, we can say, yes, we were successful at that. See meeting minutes, da-da-da-da-da, because you have proof that you're actually being successful. So that round table is huge. Use it. Be effective with it. It's powerful. And again, it will help fill out that new evaluation tool. So I asked you to go to that new evaluation tool inside your books. And so you can go to it. And when you take a look at it, you're going to see the very first, I'm just getting to it right now. You're going to see the very first thing on that evaluation tool is just some general information about the actual company itself and what, you know, who's doing the evaluation tool, et cetera, so forth. And that's a great question. Who fills out the evaluation tool? Well, legislation says the co-chairs fill it out. So one worker and one manager representative. Legislation does go on to say, or somebody who's appointed by, or somebody's this, or somebody's this. So ultimately, almost anybody can do it, but you definitely have to have a worker and an employer representative. I would encourage you to do it together as a group. So I would tell you 1 month a year, say January, beginning of the year, or December at the end of the year, and that one meeting that you as a team go through this evaluation tool in detail. So in that evaluation tool inside your book, I'm under part 1, and it says assessment of legal obligations. Now this whole section, if you actually take a look at it, the very first thing, are you following along? Very first thing in there, it says, does the committee have at least 4 members? Well, if you do, you just go ahead and hit a yes. And then the next one says, does the committee have worker and employer representatives? Go ahead and hit yes. Now you'll also notice in your book that where it says the Act 127, In the real document that you can download off of the WorkSafe BC website, it's a doc file or a PDF fillable file, either one, whatever you like. You can put your company logo on it, all that stuff. But you'll notice where it says Section 127 that there's a link. And you can actually click on that link and it'll go to the Act. You can be like, oh, what is this Act saying? Well, you can click on it and it'll tell you. So that's throughout this evaluation. Then the next question says, does the committee have two co-chairs, one worker, one employer? Yes or no? And you put a check mark beside it. If you take a look at all of these questions in the first section, it's all about your terms of reference, right? Which was a session that we learned about earlier. Is everything in your terms of reference that needs to be there? You know, is it working? Are you successful? If you take a look at 1.2, this is support for the committee. So these are questions like, did the committee members attend meetings during working hours? Did you get paid time to actually complete some of the information, and so on? And you can say yes or no. Towards the bottom of that page, there's another topic that says training and education. We're going to stop there for just a minute. So the very first one says, did new members as of April the 3rd, 2017 receive the 8 hours of training? This is the mandatory training within 6 months of being on the committee. Well, this course here is that 8 hours of mandatory training. And so in this case, if you're here with me today, check. Yes, you have done it. Now the next one down says, did all committee members receive annual educational leave? Now this is not new. This has been in the Act for a long time. The mandatory training is new. That's in the new legislation, in the regulation. But the other one, this entitled training, is located in the Act. And it says that the Joint Health and Safety Committee is entitled to 8 hours of training annually. Now, does your employer have to remind you to take the training? No, they do not. But if you ask your employer for the training, must they give it to you? The answer is yes. Now, it has to be training that will help the Joint Health and Safety Committee. You can't just go, oh, I want to take, rock climbing. No, that's not how that works. It needs to be something safety related. It could be conferences. It could be, random safety courses that'll affect the Joint Health and Safety Committee and with your employer. And you would just write them a formal ask, saying, hey, this is the training I would like, this is what it covers, and this is how it helps the Joint Health and Safety Committee. You do not have to take the training, but if you want to, it's certainly available to you. So, and WorkSafe BC has a list of trainers, bctraining.com. You might not want to quote me on that, but something like that. And you can click on it, and there's many types of companies and schools that teach courses, and you can click on them. It'll tell you all the courses that they teach, so that resource is available to you if you need it. And so that's the training and education. And then the next section in your book is the committee recommendations. So do the committee rules of procedure or terms of reference include provisions to make recommendations? This whole section talks about the 21 days, all of that stuff. So you just go through it and put a check mark beside which ones. Now, guys, stay with me. This is not about, we got an A, it's a quiz. This is, check, check, yes, yes, we're awesome, we're awesome. That's not what this evaluation form is for. It's not about being right or being 100% correct or as an exam or a quiz, as I said. This form was designed to help you and to guide you as a Joint Health and Safety Committee. Remember way back when we first started talking, the old rules or the regulation or the Act, actually the Act said, have a committee. Good luck, right? Well, now they have this incredible evaluation tool that they're making mandatory so that you understand what some of the roles and duties are that you need to do. You can say no to all of these. It doesn't matter. This form does not go to WorkSafe BC. You don't need to email it in. You don't need to fax it in. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It's just for you. Now, it does have to be available if WorkSafe BC asks for it. And if you're a core certified company, your auditor will ask for it. If you're not a core company and you don't know what that means, you can certainly Google that and that'll explain that for you. But if you are core, your auditor will ask to see this form. So it does need to be completed. But remember, it's for you. You just want to know How am I doing? Where are we on the measurement scale? And so the next one in your book is 1.4, duties and functions. Are you doing the duties and functions that are required for you to do? Yes or no? And then the next section is a part 2, and you see 2.1, committee selection. This is the first time that we see these gray boxes at the bottom of the section where you can rate yourself of your effectiveness. So the very bottom one is, are you very ineffective or are you very effective? And somewhere in there, and again, it's not about, oh, we're great, we're great, we're great. Realistically, where are you when it comes to the committee selection and membership and procedures? The next one is the attendance. How are you guys doing? The next one is your meeting minutes. How are you doing? The next one talks about refusal of unsafe work. How are you doing? Then you got 2.5, which is an overall effectiveness. How are you doing? And then it goes into another whole section on communication. So it's got a couple pages on how communication is going. For example, the very first one is A.1, committee meetings and communication. How are you communicating with each other during your meetings? And then the next one is communication with workers. So as a Joint Health and Safety Committee, how is my communication with the workers over here or at my job site? Are they getting the information? Are they hearing it? Are they not getting it? How's that going? Are you effective? Yeah, maybe kind of effective. Where are you in that? And then the next one, 8.3, is communication to the employer. How are you communicating with your employer? You know, never, sometimes, usually, always. How are you doing? And then B, focus area B, talks about inspections and hazard assessments. And then C talks about incident investigations. How are you guys doing with all that? And the last page, page 4, just gives some more information if you want to and who filled out the evaluation tool. So you need to do that evaluation annually. And again, I would encourage you to do it as a group. But for sure, you have to have a minimum of a worker and a employer representative complete that evaluation form. And you can download it off the WorkSafe BC website. It's available for you. Of course, you have one in your book that you can certainly use. Now, if you go slightly past that, inside your participant manual, you're going to see that there is a committee planning tool that we've put in there for you. And you can see that it's sort of divided into 12 sections or 12 months. The purpose of the evaluation tool is for you to have a plan. How are you moving forward with your Joint Health and Safety Committee? Are you stagnant? Are you moving backwards? Or what is it that we want to do to propel us into the future? And so you would take a look at your evaluation form and you go month 1. So January, our action is that we're going to fill out the evaluation tool. And then in February, I see that our terms of reference, we're missing a couple things. So in February, we're going to talk about the things that we're missing on the terms of reference. And then, I don't know, March or April, you can start planning for NAOSH Week, North American Safety and Health Week, which is the first week of May. Maybe you want to put that on your calendar. Again, the purpose of this is for you to have a plan. What can we do to go forward? You do not need to put everything on your evaluation list onto the next 12 months. Just pick a few items, just a few, that you want to work on as a committee. And then next year, you fill out the evaluation tool, and you'll still have some things that you're not quite there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a tool for you to guide you on what your expectations are as a Joint Health and Safety Committee and if you're in fact successful. So please use the planning tool. It's great. The evaluation tool is there for you. Again, it's on the WorkSafe BC website. I hope you learned some stuff about some of the meetings and got some nuggets or some tidbits to help you effectively run your Joint Health and Safety Committee meeting. So we have a couple more sessions for you to top off your 8 hours of training, but we're done with this session right now. So thank you for joining me, and we'll see you in the next one.